The wrench slipped from my oil-slick fingers, clattering against the concrete floor of the garage like a gunshot in the dead of night, echoing my shattering heart. "Logan, don't you dare walk away from this." Jake's voice cracked through the phone, raw with betrayal. But I was already hanging up, the screen blurring with hot tears I refused to let fall. In that split second, as the garage door groaned open behind me, I smelled him before I saw him. Leather and whiskey and the faint, forbidden musk of everything I'd been fighting since the day I met him. It was supposed to be a simple favor. Jake, my best friend since we were kids terrorizing the backroads of Elmwood, Ohio, had blown a gasket on his old Ford pickup. Classic Jake, always pushing that rust bucket like it was invincible, just like he pushed every boundary in his life. "Dude, you're the gearhead wizard," he'd texted from halfway across the state, chasing some dead-end sales gig in Columbus. "Fix her up, will ya? I'll Venmo you gas money when I get paid." No big deal. I'd towed the truck to my place that afternoon, popped the hood under the fluorescent buzz of my single-car garage, and lost myself in the familiar rhythm of bolts and belts. The kind of work that drowned out the noise in my head, the endless loop of what-ifs and why-nots that had been gnawing at me for months. Elmwood wasn't the kind of place that forgave mistakes, especially not the ones that could unravel a man's whole world. Population 5,200, give or take a funeral or two. Cornfields stretching to infinity, Friday night lights at the high school field, and enough Bible thumpers to make you whisper your sins to the wind. I grew up here, Logan Hayes, son of a mill worker dad who drank himself into an early grave, and a mom who still baked apple pies for the church ladies while pretending her boy wasn't that way. I'd learned young to keep my head down, my hands busy, my heart locked tighter than a seized piston. Cars didn't judge. They just needed fixing, same as me. By sundown, the engine was purring like a contented tomcat. I wiped my forehead with the back of my arm, leaving a streak of black across my skin, and stepped back to admire the beast. Jake's truck, faded blue paint chipped from too many gravel roads, bumper sticker reading, "Gun control means using both hands." It smelled like freedom, the kind I'd tasted once or twice on late-night drives with the windows down, radio blasting Springsteen. I was just reaching for a beer from the mini-fridge when headlights sliced through the gathering dark, pulling into my driveway like a ghost from a dream I shouldn't be having. The door slammed, and there he was, Ron, Jake's uncle. Broad-shouldered, mid-40s, with that salt and pepper beard trimmed just sharp enough to cut glass. He wasn't blood. Not really. He'd married into the family a decade back, after Jake's folks split like a fault line in an earthquake. But Ron had stepped up, raising Jake through his teenage rebellion, teaching him to throw a punch and change a tire. Hell, he taught me a few things too, back when we'd all hang out at the family cabin up in Hocking Hills. Fishing poles, cold beers, stories around the fire pit that always veered too close to the edge of what a guy like me could handle. "Logan," he said, voice gravelly from years of Marlboros and unspoken regrets. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed over a chest that strained his Henley shirt, eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my pulse stutter. "Heard you were playing mechanic fairy godmother." I forced a laugh, but it came out choked, like exhaust fumes. "Yeah, well, Jake's truck decided to throw a tantrum. Gasket's good now. Should hold till he remembers oil exists." Ron pushed off the frame, sauntering into the garage like he owned the shadows. Up close, he smelled even better. Faint cologne cutting through the grease, a reminder of the man who'd shown up at my door last winter with a snowblower when my truck got stuck in a drift. We'd shared whiskey by the heater that night, talking about everything and nothing, his knee brushing mine under the coffee table. I'd replayed it 1,000 times since, cursing myself for the heat that bloomed low in my gut. He circled the truck, running a hand along the fender, fingers lingering like a caress. "You always were good with your hands, kid." The word kid hit wrong. Too paternal, too safe. But the way his gaze flicked up, dark and unreadable, twisted it into something else entirely. I busied myself with the tools, clanging them louder than necessary. "Just doing a solid for Jake. You here to pick it up?" "Nah. He called me on his way out of town. Said something about you sounding off. Worried you might need backup." Ron's lips quirked, that half-smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, lines etched from laughing too hard and crying too quiet. "But I think it's me who's been needing it." My stomach dropped. Backup? Jake hadn't mentioned a damn thing. But Ron was already closing the distance, his boots scuffing the concrete, until he was close enough I could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow from a bar fight back in '09. Close enough to feel the heat radiating off him like an idling engine. Ron, what? His hand shot out, cupping the back of my neck, thumb brushing the pulse point that betrayed me every time. Shut up, Logan. Just shut up for once. And then he kissed me. Not tentative, not testing, like a man who'd been starving in the desert and finally found water. His beard scraped my skin, lips firm and tasting of mint gum and desperation, tongue sweeping in like he was claiming territory he'd mapped out in his head 100 nights ago. I froze, wrench forgotten on the workbench, the world narrowing to the press of his body against mine. Solid, unyielding, everything I'd imagined in the dark hours when loneliness clawed at my ribs. My hands found his waist, fingers digging into the soft leather of his belt, pulling him closer even as my brain screamed abort, abort, abort. Jake's face flashed in my mind, grinning, trusting, oblivious, and guilt twisted like a knife. But Ron's groan, low and wrecked, drowned it out, his free hand sliding under my shirt, palm rough against my ribs. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together, breaths mingling in the humid garage air. Fuck, I whispered, the word a prayer and a curse. What the hell are we doing? Ron's eyes searched mine, stormy with something deeper than lust. Fear, maybe, or the kind of longing that reshapes a man. What we've been dancing around since that night at the cabin. You think I don't see it? The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. I wanted to deny it, to shove him away and pretend this was a fever dream born from too many solitary beers. But the truth was a live wire, sparking between us. It had started innocently enough. Ron showing up to Jake's ball games with a cooler of sodas, me tagging along because Jake dragged me everywhere. Then the cabin trips. Lazy afternoons on the lake. Ron stripping down to swim trunks that hugged his thighs like a second skin. Water glistening on his chest as he hauled himself onto the dock. I'd avert my eyes, crack jokes to cover the flush creeping up my neck, but he'd catch me every time, that knowing glint in his gaze like he was peeling back my layers one by one. And me? I'd buried it deep, under layers of flannel and engine grease, telling myself it was admiration, nothing more. Ron was the steady one, the guy who'd patched Jake's scrapes and mine too, after that wreck on Route 23 when we were 20. Divorced now, Aunt Linda couldn't handle the long hauls as a trucker. Or maybe it was the secrets he kept locked behind that easy smile. Secrets I was starting to suspect mirrored my own. Jake, I managed, voice hoarse. He can't know. Ron's grip tightened. Not painful but possessive. He won't. Not till we're ready. He pulled back just enough to look at me, really look like he was memorizing the freckles across my nose, the scar on my knuckle from a slipped socket wrench. But Logan, I'm tired of pretending. 43 years on this rock, and I've spent half of them running from who I am. You're the first thing that's felt like home in a long damn time. The words landed like a punch, stealing my breath. Home. In Elmwood, that word meant white picket fences and Sunday potlucks. Not this electric tangle of want and wrongness. But standing there, with the truck's hood still yawning open like a confessional, I felt it too. The pull, magnetic and merciless, drawing me under. That night, we didn't go further. Not with the risk of neighbors' porch lights flickering on, or Jake's truck sitting there like a chaperone. Ron lingered instead, helping me pack up the tools, our shoulders brushing in the charged silence. We talked, halting at first, then spilling like rain off a tin roof. About his marriage, the facade he'd built to fit the mold. About my dad, the homophobic rants that still echoed in my nightmares. About Jake, the kid we'd both die for, and how loving him meant protecting this fragile thing blooming between us. By midnight, he was gone, taillights fading down my street, leaving me with a ghost kiss on my lips and a heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. I slid into bed, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, replaying every second. Sleep came in fits, dreams tangled with chrome and calluses, his voice murmuring my name like a secret code. Morning broke gray and drizzly, the kind of Ohio autumn that seeps into your bones. I was nursing coffee, scrolling Jake's latest Snapchat, some blurry shot of a dive bar jukebox, when my phone buzzed. Ron. Lunch? Diner on Main. 1 p.m. My thumb hovered, traitorous hope warring with dread. What if this was a mistake? What if it blew up everything? But then I thought of his eyes, that unguarded vulnerability, and typed back. Yeah, see you there. The Elmwood Diner was a relic. Red vinyl booths cracked from decades of asses. Waitresses calling you, Han. Even if you'd lived here your whole life. I slid into our usual corner booth. The one with the best view of the rain-slicked street. Nerves jangling like loose timing chains. Ron arrived 5 minutes late, shaking droplets from his jacket, that beard damp and curling at the edges. He slid in across from me, knees bumping mine under the table, and ordered the patty melt like it was any other Tuesday. But it wasn't. Conversation danced around the edges. Work gripes, Jake's latest screw-up, but his foot hooked around my ankle, a deliberate anchor, and heat pooled in my veins. By the time the check came, his hand was on my thigh under the formica, thumb tracing circles that made my breath hitch. "Drive me home," he murmured, voice low enough the waitress wouldn't catch it. We tumbled into his place, a modest rancher on the edge of town, the kind with a wide porch and a yard that backed onto woods. The door barely clicked shut before he had me against the wall, mouths crashing in a kiss that tasted like fries and urgency. Clothes shed in a trail to the bedroom. My shirt yanked over my head, his belt buckle clinking like a promise. Skin on skin, finally. His body a map of hard plains and soft yields, scars from life etching stories across his ribs. I traced them with my lips, eliciting shudders that mirrored my own, our breaths sinking in the dim light filtering through half-drawn blinds. It was messy, fervent, the kind of sex that erases doubts. His hands everywhere, gripping my hips, fisting my hair, whispering filth and tenderness in equal measure. God, Logan, you feel like sin and salvation. I arched into him, nails raking his back, chasing the release that built like thunder. When it hit, it shattered me, waves crashing, leaving me boneless and branded. After, we lay tangled in sheets that smelled of him, rain pattering the window like applause. His fingers carded through my hair, lazy and intimate. This is real, right? Not just some midlife crisis bullshit. I propped on an elbow, studying the piece softening his features. Real as it gets. But Ron, we gotta be smart. Jake finds out, it'll kill him. He nodded, jaw tightening. I know. My sister's boy, hell, he's like my own. But hiding? That's killing me slower. We made promises then, fragile as spider silk. Stolen moments, coded texts, a timeline to tell Jake when the time felt right. For a week, it was bliss wrapped in caution. Garage meetups after dark, his truck parked nose out for a quick getaway. Dinners at out-of-town spots, hands linked under the table. Even a weekend at the cabin, where we hiked trails hand in hand, no eyes but the deer to judge. I fell hard, stupidly, the kind of love that rewires your soul. Ron laughed at my dumb jokes, listened when I vented about Mom's passive-aggressive hints about finding a nice girl. He shared his own ghosts, the Navy days, the first man he'd kissed in a Manila alley, the shame that followed him home. But cracks formed, subtle at first. Jake called more, his voice edged with something off. You and Uncle Ron been talking? He sounds different. I deflect, blame work, but paranoia crept in. What if Jake suspected? What if Ron's ex sniffed around? Elmwood was small. Secrets had a way of fermenting like bad moonshine. The blow came on a crisp Saturday, 2 weeks in. I was elbow-deep in a customer's Chevy when Jake burst through the garage door, face thunderous, phone clutched like a grenade. What the fuck, Logan? You screwing my uncle? The world tilted. Grease dripped from my fingers. Forgotten. Jake, wait. He thrust the phone at me, screen glowing with a screenshot. A blurry photo from the cabin parking lot. Ron's truck, my arm slung casual around his shoulders. Time-stamped last weekend. Some busybody from church sent this to Mom. Said they thought you boys should know. Know what? That my best friend and the only family I've got left are lying to my face. Betrayal burned in his eyes, hot and accusatory. I reached for him, but he jerked back. It's not. We didn't mean to hurt you. Bullshit. Jake's voice broke, fists clenched. You think I wouldn't notice? The excuses, the whispers. God, Logan, I trusted you. Both of you. He spun on his heel, storming out, leaving the door swinging like a guillotine. I sank to the stool, head in hands, the photo searing my retinas. Who? Why? Ron called minutes later, voice wrecked. He's at my place, screaming, throwing shit. Logan, fix this. I choked. Please. But fixing wasn't that simple. Jake vanished for days, radio silence, no texts, nothing. Ron and I met in neutral territory, a motel off I-71, where we clung to each other like lifelines, tears mixing with sweat. He'll come around, Ron murmured, but doubt shadowed his words. We fought too. Ugly words about risks, regrets, the selfishness of our stolen joy. The climax hit midweek. Jake showed up at Ron's, not alone. Mom in tow, Bible clutched like armor, face pinched with righteous fury. I got the call from Ron. Get here. Now. The living room was a battlefield. Jake pacing, Mom perched on the couch like a judge, Ron standing defiant by the fireplace. I slipped in quiet, heart hammering. You poisoned him. Mom spat at me, eyes raking my grease-stained jeans, turning my nephew, my brother's boy, into this abomination. Jake whirled. It's not Logan's fault, Ma. It's his. Finger jabbing at Ron. You were supposed to protect me, not chase tail like some pervert. Ron's face crumpled, then hardened. Jake, son. Don't son me. You think I didn't know? The looks, the way you stared at Logan like he hung the moon. I ignored it for you. For us. Tears streaked his cheeks, voice raw. But this? Betraying me? The room spun. I stepped forward, voice steady despite the quake inside. It wasn't betrayal, Jake. It was love. Real messy love. The kind that scares the hell out of you because it doesn't fit the script. Mom gasped, crossing herself. But Jake paused, searching my face. The face he'd known since sandbox days. Love? Or just convenient? Ron moved then, slow, deliberate, crossing to Jake. Not touching, but close. I love him, kid. More than I've loved anything since your ma handed you to me that first night, screaming and red-faced. And yeah, it started wrong, hiding, stealing moments. But it's not about convenience. It's about finally breathing. Silence stretched, thick as fog. Mom rose, sputtering about hellfire. But Jake held up a hand. Out, Ma. I need to think. She left in a huff, door slamming like Judgment Day. We waited, me by the window, Ron on the couch, Jake staring at the floor. Minutes bled into an hour. Finally, he looked up, eyes red-rimmed but clear. I hate this. Hate how it hurts. But your family, both of you, fucked up, lying family. A watery laugh. Just, no more secrets. And Logan, if you break his heart, I'll break your face. Relief crashed over us like a breaker. Hugs followed. Awkward, fierce, the kind that mends fractures. Not perfect, not instant forgiveness, but a start. Mom came around slower, grudging potlucks turning to quiet nods. Then a hesitant be happy, boys over Thanksgiving pie. Months later, under a star-strewn sky at the cabin, Ron slipped a key onto my chain. Not to his house, but to a future we'd build, brick by honest brick. Jake walked me down the aisle at our small commitment ceremony, grinning like the kid who'd once dared me to jump the creek. Elmwood whispered still, gossip like autumn leaves, but we stood taller, hands clasped, hearts open. Love isn't a straight road, no detours or easy exits. It's the breakdown in the rain, the wrench that slips, the unexpected hand that pulls you up. And in the end, it's worth every goddamn mile.